Croeso, this is James, aka JP Harker, coming to you with another video, a TBR video today. So a couple of books that I wish to read and one that I wish to reread. First one, and I've already started it, is a David Gemmell, and it's White Wolf, Book 1 of the Damned, and also a novel of Drus the Legend. I've started it, and we shall see how it goes. We have a Skilgannon the Damned, who is a sort of disgraced general who's done all sorts of terrible things in his time and is now trying to live the quiet life of a priest. I'm fairly confident that's not going to work out for him and that he's going to have to go back to his warrior ways. Call me psychic, but I think that's what's going to happen because it's what happened the last time David Gemmell wrote about a deadly warrior who decided to make peace and become a priest. But that's something else. I don't want to sound like I'm digging into David Gemmell because I really like his books, but sometimes the same plot line gets used more than once, which is this philosophical concept that he has of goodness in the world comes from avoiding violence, and the source of all things, which is a common god in Gemmell's books. The source of all things hates the notion of people being violent towards one another, and the magic of the world is made less every time anybody is violent, etc., etc. And yet, courage is hugely admirable. And so there's always this slight contradiction in the souls of our protagonists of, well, am I doing the right thing in using violence? Because not to do so would be not to be courageous and to allow innocent people to suffer. And it's an age-old quandary. But I've seen before where deadly warriors become priests to find peace, and it doesn't work out like that. So I suspect that is what will happen with Skilgannon. It does say it's a novel of Drus the Legend. Whether that means our Skilgannon will end up being a secondary character in his own book, because Drus does tend to, if he's making a cameo, he tends to draw our attention because he's the character we know well. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it's balanced out well, because, as I say, I like Gemmell's books very much. Some of them I've thought, it's alright, and some of them I've thought, this is really, really good. So let us hope that this falls into the latter category. That is White Wolf. Another one, I'll do my reread one first because it'll make sense in context, is The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern, by William Goldman. And I've read this one before, and it's brilliant. I grew up with the film, as a lot of people did. I absolutely adore that film. I've seen it in a castle before now, where it was on a big screen in the courtyard, and all the audience were there, sort of grinning like fools as we watched them have fun storming the castle, and everyone realizing they're not left-handed. And it's an absolutely fantastic film. If you haven't seen The Princess Bride, then you clearly didn't have a childhood. But it's like the people who haven't seen Labyrinth. Why even bother being a kid? But reading the books, or book singular, really good. It has, because it's written by the same person who wrote the screenplay, it has all of the best bits that got made into the film. And it has little additions like Inigo Montoya isn't a fencing master, he is a wizard. Not in that he knows magic, but as in that is the title for somebody who is above master. And you're in his head when he's fencing the man in black. And they throw the casual references out in the film, but you have all these real fencing terms, like sort of Capoferro and Tybalt and Bonetti and all of that. And it's really good the way it's put together. And it's interesting the way it ends. It ends with a 95% happy ending, but with a tiny bit of and I do like that. So it's been a while since I've read this. I hope to find time to read it again because I so rarely get time for rereads. that is The Hope, the Princess Bride. And connected to it is a book that I wish to read. That is a book of my wife's, I think, that was given to her by a relative, or it was given to me by the same relative, and that is As You Wish by the man, the myth, the legend, Cary Elwes. It is inconceivable tales from the making of The Princess Bride. And since he has conceived them, this word, I do not think it means what he thinks it means. I treated myself to reading a tiny bit, and I'm really liking it already. The behind-the-scenes snippets that we have, the way it's set up is you have the main body of text, but then little chunks here where somebody else will have a comment on what's being spoken about. And it's interesting. It's interesting how Cary Elwes came into getting the role and some of the work he'd done. And I hadn't appreciated just how unlikely it was that this film would ever be made. So if this continues in the vein that it's begun, this will be a very good book. So I hope to finish this and be able to recommend it to you all, because we all love The Princess Bride. And if you don't love The Princess Bride, it's clearly because you haven't seen it. And if you haven't seen it, it's because you haven't had a childhood. So invest in a new childhood and watch Princess Bride and read the book, and then read the book about the making of the film that's about the book. And then we can all chat about it like civilized people. I shall leave it there. David Gemmell, White Wolf. William Goldman, The Princess Bride. And Cary Elwes, As You Wish. I love it. That'll do for this video, I think. This is James, aka JP Harker. Well,